Right, hello there, welcome back to part 2. In this part we're going to be carrying on working on this motor from the Purepower, and I went upstairs and fetched myself a 12mm socket and wrench down from the toolbox, and also I dug out from my spares box the old wheeler carriage from the other machine that broke. Now, as you can see from this, this is the one that I broke the clip from, which was the good one. And you can see how both those hinges are intact. This was the one that snapped off from the one upstairs, and I dropped it on the floor when I was carrying it, and it broke off that and that. So it snapped off both edges of the plastic hinge, so this wouldn't stay on the machine. But the good thing is about that, it's actually still got that metal clip on it, because I kept this and didn't throw it out. It's actually still got the metal clip that I need attached to it, so I can take that clip off and put it back on this machine. So that's rather good news. I hadn't realised that was still on there, so I had to have a look in that little brake there. So there we go, that's that. So what we're going to do then, we're going to take this nut off this motor, and I think it might be a reverse thread. Yes, it is. So it's you have to turn it as if you hold the mole grips on the spindle and turn this as if you're tightening it, and then we can remove the nut off the end of this. Take the mole grips off there, and then we can lift off the fan from the motor like so. So there we've got the little washer inside the fan and the nut, and put those back together and leave them there. Now what we can do is to remove the airflow, whatever they call this part here, which I'm not quite sure what they call that, but it's the part that essentially diverts the air back from the fan in towards the motor again. So I can remove that with 2 screws, Phillips driver here. So that's 2 screws. That then will come off, and you'll notice as well that there is a little washer inside here which goes on the end of there, on the spindle, so I shall leave that inside there so that doesn't get lost. And then what we're able to do then is to be able to get to the bearing there, and there is the bearing at the back of the motor, which is all you would normally need to do on such a motor as this. So just for the sake of it, I will get my little oil can and we will put some oil on there. I know it doesn't really need any, but if you were going to service your motor and the bearings were noisy, that's what you'd do. So let's put some oil in there, turn it round so that it works it in. It's really not a bad idea to do this, because the machine has been standing now for nearly 5 years, not getting a lot of use. And we can just put a little drop of oil on the other bearing here on the back as well. And then spin it round to get that worked in. Now, as we know, it's a pretty new motor this is, so there's no need to even have to check the brush. But if you can see from there, I mean, that's got a massive a long brush length on there. But I would suggest that if the brushes were worn out and this commutator was arcing, then basically you'd have to throw the motor out and replace the motor anyway. So now we've lubricated those bearings, we can put the whatever they call this part, the suction, the airflow diverter, or the airflow, whatever that is, basically we can put that back on. Put that little washer back on the spindle there. Take those screws out so I can line my screw holes back up, like so. And do those screws up. One, too. Okay, so that's nice. And then what you could also do when you have that out is to clean all this here as well and get any other filth and the crap that's caught in there out. Because if you're going to be doing this on an old machine, you might well have to clean the inside of the fan out as well. So we'll just tip our little washer out of here. What you can do to clean that out is to use like a brush like this and get the brush thoroughly into each of the veins of the fan and give it a good clean out, like so. Or you can just put it in some hot soapy water and leave it to soak, and then do that in the water and then thoroughly dry it afterwards. So let's put the washer back inside, and then we can put it back on the spindle and then lower the nut back onto here, and we're going to tighten it up by turning it anti-clockwise, because don't forget this is a reverse thread on this motor, and okay, and get my mole grips again on the shaft, put the spanner, okay, so that's tight now. There we go. So that's nice and easy to do. Notice that when Doreen did the Electrolux, I think 500 series, that the fan was actually pressed onto the end of the shaft and it wasn't possible to get it off. But on these motors, you can. So then we can get our fan case cover back on. Squeeze it all the way around, applying even pressure. It will go. There we go, so that's back on. And give it a spin, just to make sure that nothing is catching. There we go. So that's the motor bearings all lubricated up, so that'll be ready to go back in the machine. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the back of here and I'm going to check out the circuitry. So in order to do that, I'm going to take these two screws out on the back of there for the handle. And that is a flat bladed screwdriver to get those out. Now, as these are usually quite tight, I'm going to use the screwdriver rather than the electric one. That's one there. This one is usually very tight, so there we go. So that's lifted the handle off. And then what we've got inside there are three more screws, Phillips head, that we're going to take out. Let's turn it back round this way. One. Two. Three. And that should enable this to come off like so. Right. So there we've got the two connections to the switch. And so if you needed to replace the switch, that just pushes out like so. The button on there, I think, does that come off the button? I don't want to go breaking it now, because if I can't get it back on, no, I'm going to leave that. It seems to want to stay on there, but anyway, that's how you replace the switch, and those two connections just pull off the switch. So we'll push that back into its housing again. Inside here we have the circuit board I was talking about earlier. This is what controls the soft start. If it's a lower wattage Purepower, it might not have that board in, but essentially that is all that's inside there. If you wanted to replace your cable, basically there is a cable clip there, so you'd undo that, remove 1 and 2 screws there, which are on the brown and the blue. Then you could take your cable out the back, put your new one in and wire it up to there. Simple as that. So let's put that back together again. So that circuit board just literally sits in there like so, does it, without being connected to anything. Looks like it. So yeah, let's put it back together again now. So effectively we've pretty much taken everything off. The only thing I didn't remove was the suction relief valve, which is here on the back, and that's just 1, 2 screws and a rubber seal underneath. So effectively that is a Purepower stripped down. Wasn't too difficult, was it? And the motor was cleaned out there and lubricated. So now, in the remaining, how many minutes have I got left? About 18 minutes to put this thing back together again, because I don't really want to run into a third part with this. So we'll put the screws back in first. Where are we? One. Tight. They are tight. Sometimes this has a little bit too much torque on it, and it can tend to strip the heads on these screws, so you've got to be careful, these electric screwdrivers. Right, let's put the other 2 back in the front. They go back in there. So I mean, the only thing really you would need to have that cover off for is if you're going to replace the switch on it or replace the cable. So it is fairly easy to do, but you need to take the handle off. That. Right, so now we need to put the handle back on. And here are the 1 screws there, which is a flathead, and that's a flatheaded as well on there. So that slides back in. We'll get our screwdriver, flat bladed screwdriver. There, so those done. Right, so that's that. So now what we're going to do is put our fan case housing seal back in. You don't have to worry about the cable at this stage, because there's a little cutout in here that the cable goes back through afterwards. Okay. The quality of this is pretty dreadful. So that there is one piece, so you need to slide the motor back through there rather than pushing it down onto it. So let's get the motor back. Now, remembering that the label faced the bottom of the machine like that, I need to put my motor mounting rubber back on the bottom of here. It doesn't really matter which way it goes round. Then I need to put my fan case seal back on. Then I need to run my wire back through this channel. And I need to connect my blue wire to the connector on the bottom, which is here. Like that. Place the motor back down, putting it through there. Like that. And I think, yes, that just pushes into there and that pushes back into there. So now our rubber is seated correctly, and I can connect the brown wire back up to the connection on this brush unit here, brush housing here. So that's that. And at this stage, what I would do is plug it in, and just to make sure that that motor runs. Now this is going to be very noisy, so put my hand on it, onto the rubber part. And it runs beautiful, and that was a soft starter I was on about, how it ramps it up. I always like that feature with this. Right, so that's the motor. All the seal is pushed in, making sure actually that we've trapped the seal here. Just make sure that that seal isn't trapped. Push that back down again. And then push the seal back in here, otherwise we get suction leaks. Right, let's get the motor housing back on. What have I done with this? Is that in the other room here? No, it's here. I couldn't see it. Looking for a white part for some reason, but it's here, look. And lower this back on. Again, making sure that I don't strap the rubber. Make sure the rubber is actually in position down in these gaps. And then I can lower it down. Like so. Tighten it up. That one's being awkward. Where's my extension gone? That's it. Right, from there, let's put our base back on. So we can lie that down on here, put the, let's just have a look, see they are the same both sides by the looks of things, so we can put one back down in there and the other one inside there. And then I'm going to lie my housing back into there. Are these? Are these different or are they the same? Let's try the other side. That's that one in. They're a little bit fiddly, but they'll go in. There we go. That's that. No screws needed to fix that back on. We will put the, let's think, would it have been a better idea to put the carriage wheels in there first? It might have been actually, so I'm going to have to take that back off again. Let's have a look at these carriage wheels. So I need to put that back in. Slide that along, that's the height adjuster there. So you put it into the hole in the end and slide it down. So now I need to get this metal part here off this without breaking it. I need a smaller screwdriver. Right, let's put it on to the other one. I can slide that in. There we go. So what it does, it clicks in onto the back of here like this. So to get it out, I should have pushed that with a screwdriver and then slid this out. So that's going to be screwed back in. There we go. Excellent, I'm really glad I found that. Right, let's have this back part now back onto here. That into there, that into there, and then we're supposed to be able to lower that in. And then they usually always fall out. There we go, a little bit of fettling, it's gone in the end. Right, so now I'm going to put the brush roll back in and the belt. And I might do a daily clean with this in due course, so what I'm going to do is to put the belt on actually before I put the hood back on. So we can line our end plates up so they fit down into the gap. Get the belt onto the spindle. Like so. Give it another check. And that works very well indeed. Right, let's put the cover of the hood back on. One, two. Now I need to just put these parts here back on the back. So the lower side one goes on first. Into that hole, I think. And then the top one goes on into that hole. I want that as well, which is the bag collar mounting. And then put the screws back in for this. That's one. Take the extender out. Two, three, four. We want to put our knob back on. Not sure, we'll just put that on as well. Let's see how much time I've got. 2 minutes left before this camera cuts me off, so I need to get this done. There we go, that's the height control knob. Does that go on the other way around? Okay, that's the seal. Stand it back up now, and I think do we have to angle the camera up as well? There we go. So all we need now is the filter in the bottom. Back in. Bag door back on. Put the hose back on and the filter. Over there, into there, and into there. That into there. The two tools. And there we go. Just put the two little bits in the side. One. Two, one last plug in. And there you go. That is the stripped down and put together of the Purepower, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next stripping down video. So bye for now.